I'm Balajius, the writer-director of The Man Who Was Thursday.
And then,
Hi, I'm Ana Ularu. I play Esther and Saturday in the film The Man Who Was Thursday.
hi, my name is Francois Arnaud. I play Father Smith in The Man Who Was Thursday.
So, obviously, this comes from a particular inspiration. Can you talk about what made you want to dive into this and tackle this the way you guys did? What made you have this spark of inspiration to tell us this story in this way?
Right. The first time I ever heard about the book was from my mentor and family friend, Istvan Szabo, the Academy Award-winning director of Mephisto. And he told me about Chesterton's book, which is from 1908. And the original book's premise is very simple. You have one person thrust in to, a little bit against his own will, into a world where there are 7 people up against each other, and they don't know that they have been set up against each other. And that idea is the premise of any fear-based rule, any fear-induced dictatorship, if you will, where you have this made-up enemy that doesn't even exist, and you're constantly living in that sense of I have to fight it, I have to be up against something, there's this enemy out there, it doesn't even exist. It's a fragment of your imagination that you could very well do without. And I loved that idea because it's essentially how most political systems are ran in the world. We have, over 4,000 recognized and practiced religions in the world today, which cause most of the trouble in human history, and that's what I found absolutely fascinating. I wanted to tell that story. Had to adapt it because the original book is from 1908, and it's a great piece of literature. It's amazing, but it might have been a little slow and a little too philosophical for the big screen. So we had to find a setting that was more fitting for action, that could tackle religious dogma, psychedelic drugs, and copious amounts of sex that could be that we all face as temptations, and we could live through them and relate to any of those issues that Father Smith has to tackle in the film.
I've got to ask then, did you give them the full script or did you give them their only parts? Did you test kind of how much information they had, or was it always, did y'all know from the very beginning what y'all's characters were going to go through?
There was a script. There was a script. We read it. I read it. Did you read it?
No.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Because there's so much that y'all could pull if it...
Right.
With the concept of the original story, or...
No, it wasn't kept a secret from us. I mean, we both read the book as well, which served as inspiration, but then the movie script really departs from the book's plot.
What was, when you were reading the script, what element kind of stood out to you and made you guys want to tackle this and be a part of this project?
Well, I really fell in love with the first act right away, actually, to have such a desperate character who struggles with his beliefs, sex and drug addiction, and it is really at a complete loss, and is then given one last chance to redeem himself. So I thought it was the journey of redemption of the character, I thought, was what seduced me.
I think it was mostly his character at first that I really liked. I didn't know who was going to play it, and when I read the script, of course, I didn't know the payoff. So when I got to that, also I realized somewhere in between that the one of the characters kind of morphs into the other one, and you would need one actor to play it. And I thought, I really hope I'm that actor, because this happened before I auditioned to play Saturday and Esther. I was offered the role of Tuesday, which I thought, was super cool, and I was happy to be a part of this film. But I saw the 2 others, and I was like, do they have someone for this one? Because it stretches you, and you get to play more. So I just go for the opportunity of play all the time. And his character was really interesting to me at first because you, as an audience, and at that point as someone who was reading a script, you feel for the guy. And you want to see, how he'll try to extricate himself from this, or if he'll go down with it. Like, is he going to go down in flames, or will he be saved? Will he manage to save himself? And you always go for that kind of character. You go for the more flawed hero, in a way. Yeah, for the human, you don't go for the guy, for the know-it-all. You don't go for the full hero. I think we, as a society, and especially in this day and age, if you look at everything that happens in animation, for example, it's always the characters that are the misfits. You go for the misfit, always. You love them.
That's who you root for, yeah.
Yeah, speak.
That's who you root for.
Well, can you talk about the rest of the casting process and switching roles and being able to find the specific people, and what was the order of the casting? Was Francois first? I mean, how did this
Yes.
all come about?
Yes, we had never met, and believe it or not, only when the casting directors suggested Francois did I ever watch an episode of The Borgias, and but I had seen I Killed My Mother, so I knew who he was, of course, but I didn't know from The Borgias. But then I did watch that, and I'm like, oh great, this is amazing. He's gonna hate me for putting him in the cloth again, even if he, which. But then I was hoping, well, maybe he'll realize that this is a very different kind of the cloth, and he did. We had a.
The Borgias had its fair share of sex and corruption.
Just a little bit.
Just
Yeah,
the
a little bit.
Different age. Same style, same color.
Me in that one as well.
There you go.
It's a modern character.
Yeah, it's a modern character. But then we had a conversation. I was in Budapest already in prep, and I don't know where you were, but we had a conversation where 28 people were listening. You were what?
I was in a park and I was in a park and I was pacing back and forth, and I remember I gave you so much shit because that script was really, really confusing, and so it was. I had so many questions that I needed answered. Before I tackled the role.
And that very night, and you don't know this. That very night, I had another conversation with another actor. Yeah.
You cheated.
No, I did not cheat. I'm telling you now. There was another actor, and he had him and I had a very different conversation. He desperately wanted the role. He really said that. No, Francois was questioning. He was questioning everything, and he really made me earn my buck in that conversation. Like, I had to tear the story apart and tear the character apart and build him back up and explain to him for an hour and a half what we were doing and why we were doing this. And the other actor, and he's a great actor, but he basically sold himself on the premise that this is he relates to it because of his childhood, and this is how he lived, and somewhere down the line I might work with him, but then we asked for a few hours, and the next morning I went to sleep. This was very late at night in Budapest, and I went to sleep, and next morning I woke up and I said, yeah, I knew this last night, but yeah, it's Francois. And then the others, Anna, yes, at one point we were going to shoot the film in Romania. And when we were there, we asked our local co-producer, Dragos Vilku, to recommend a few local actresses for the role of Tuesday. And one of them was Anna. And then we moved the production to Budapest, but we were there, and we were looking for Saturday, which was for me the hardest role to cast. I did not, we looked at absolutely everybody and their mother in Europe. We had a lot of American actresses and a lot of interest from, all sorts of actresses were interested in that role, exactly because of what Anna is saying. It's the chance to play two characters. It's the chance to play very different people in very conflicting, not even people, So there was a lot of interest. But even the ones that got a little bit close, there was always something missing. There was always something wrong. They either asked the wrong question, or we just didn't click, or something wasn't right. But till that day, I remembered Anna's reel. I saw a reel in Romania that Dragos showed me. And so I said to the producers, let's send her at least for Tuesday. Let's bring her over to Budapest for that role. But Tuesday doesn't say much in the film, so we sent the 2 monologues of Saturday, the one in the cemetery and the first confession, and Esther's first confession. And we sent it in the morning, and I think you had to record it like in a few hours. And these are like
I had an hour.
You had an hour, and these are like 6 pages of monologue. And she sent them. And we're in prep. I sit down in one of the production offices. I start watching it on my laptop. 10 seconds into the thing, I was crying. And I called in the cinematographer, Guy Livne. I'm like, dude, watch this. He sits down, and like 15 seconds in, he's trembling. He stops. It's like, oh my God. So I call in the producers. I sit down. I'm like, look, they start watching. He goes, all right, I get it. And that's it. And so we had her.
So I didn't realize y'all switched location scouts, because y'all found some incredible locations. What was that process like? And for y'all as actors immersed into these interesting areas, what was it like being in the cemetery scene especially? Where did you find all these? Because if y'all were thinking about Romania and then you switched, I mean, that must have been kind of chaotic.
Not really. I'm from Budapest, so I had the home field advantage of knowing a lot of places, and there was this. We shot in Budapest for 28 days, and then a day and a half in Rome. Okay. And in Budapest, we spent, I think, 2 weeks or something in an abandoned mental institute that was built in the late 1800s, and it's been abandoned for about a decade. And the only reason we went in there is because no church would allow us even near the vicinities. For obvious reasons. I
wonder why,
yeah. We tried everything. We gave them modified scripts. They're like, nope, not happening. But this mental institute had a parish, a rather large one, which wasn't a sanctified church at the time, so we could use it. So we just had to furnish it again and refurbish, and that was our main reason for going into that mental institute. But then obviously we found every other location in there. It was incredible. We built, the hotel rooms. No, I'll hand it over in a second. So we did a lot of stuff there. Then Budapest had, we filmed everywhere in the Buda Castle, in another castle downtown. Full of castles. We found Jack's Bar there, the airport. We could do everything, almost everything there. We really only had to go to Rome for the big exterior shots, Castel Sant'Angelo, the Vatican, obviously. Which was a really, we didn't get permits for the Vatican, we got permits for Rome. So one side of the street is Rome, the other side is the Vatican. So we had the camera set up on one side, and in that scene before Charles and Jordi and Francois walk into the Vatican. So
I just figured it was a good wide shot, but now I know the truth. Yeah.
They start walking in towards the Vatican, and we are across the street, and just before, the last frame is the last usable frame in that shot, because the Vatican guards come out and go, nope, and they stop them. Yeah, sorry.
What was it like for you guys shooting here after that? I mean, for him to put you in a mental institute, that must have been crazy. But as far as getting into the characters and the places that he put you into, how much of the location impacted what you guys were doing?
Well,
you want to speak?
Well, that's where you belong.
He was building that up. I think that's why he was laughing. He was the what?
Your autopsy.
Yeah, my autopsy. Yeah, but see, you give away stuff if you say that. And this is filmed.
Oh.
Give it away, please.
So yeah.
Not much. Try giving it away without actually giving.
Okay, so there's amongst the many places within the mental institute that we shot. We actually shot in their morgue as well, on an actual marble slab that they used to, pick apart bodies or whatever they did there. So I was on one of those tables. Fun. Be an actress, they said. It's glamorous, they said. That kind of thing. it was really interesting to be in all those places because movies have this quality, and I've noticed this. I've actually written about this at some point. A film crew moving into anywhere changes that place completely. Like, you are so irreverent as a visitor, as a crew in that place. Like, you're in a cemetery, yeah, but the coffee's over there, and you have the bins over there, and makeup's over there. You, like, any place loses its initial meaning for those hours. It just becomes, you take it over, you invade it, and you incorporate it, and that's always fun. So I didn't feel like it was a mental institute, probably because I belong there, but it just felt like
She didn't know. We didn't tell her.
they did. We didn't tell her, but you get the energy of the place and you just go with it. And at the end of the day, it's your workspace more than anything else. Okay, that's a slab of marble. It's an autopsy table. Fun. Just gonna put the pizza on my chest, and you'll see the pizza. I can't.
Don't do the pizza.
Don't do the pizza. Fine. There's a Frankie. Speak.
I think also when you come from the theater, at any table can become an autopsy table. It's just it's sort of all very codified, and just the act of filming there sort of sacralizes it.
Exactly.
What was the question?
Well, I guess for you it's a little different because you're used to castles and these environments. I mean, different time frame, but you know what I mean? Like, taking over different buildings, how much of the locations impacted, your performance? And being amongst this, what we got to see as an audience, the scape of the whole scenery.
Well, I very much enjoyed, because I shot the Borgias for 3 seasons in Budapest, and so I very much enjoyed going back there to work with the crews that I'm really more familiar with now than the crews anywhere else. And I think they, the streets of Budapest are just a perfect actor for the neighborhoods of Rome that we wanted to use in the film. What were you going to say?
I was thinking about, I can give you 2 serious answers. Sorry, because it actually hit me now. There are 2 serious parts to this question. One is the goth party, which was, we actually advertised a goth party on Facebook in Budapest and said, we're gonna throw the party for you, we're gonna build the venue, but come out. So we had over 100 actual goth guys and girls turn up for that night shoot. Yeah, and the rest are extras, yeah, but it's like half extras in black t-shirts, and the rest are actual goth, subculture partygoers. They had an amazing time. Our composer put together this really creepy DJ set for that party, and so when we were in there and with the nuns who are on the stage, without giving too much away, they're a couple in real life. I know the 2 nuns on stage in the goth scene.
They're a couple?
In real life. There you go. Now I gave you something to think about.
It's a lot dirtier going on. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Europeans are here. But there when we were shooting that, and we were shooting that scene with 2 cameras, and I had the video village was just behind the stage. But at one time I took over one of the cameras, 3 cameras, because the Steadicam and 2 others. And one time I took over one of the cameras, and I went into the handheld and into the party. I stopped looking into the viewfinder, and I was just turning like this. Where am I? This feels real. When the music, because we didn't do it silently. We shot it with the music. So the music was blasting. The nuns were doing what they were doing on stage, and everybody was just partying and dancing, and it felt real. And so that was incredible. That was an incredible feeling. And I saw that space empty, and our production designer, Judith Varga, and our cinematographer, Guy Livnet, turned that place into something incredible out of nothing. So that was really a mesmerizing experience for me. And then the other one, that's more as a film buff kid who is now living his dream kind of thing. That was in Rome when the first truck turned up on location, and it said Cinecittà, and then I was like, oh. And Fellini shot here, come on. So that was incredible.
Yeah, you were laughing because...
No, I was laughing because when we shot that day at Cinecittà, and then I'd been told that it was the set that where Fellini shot La Dolce Vita, and I was super excited about the whole thing. And after, when we were about to leave, someone also told us that, like, last year actually the reality show Big Brother used it for 12 months. That sort of burst my bubble.
So that
Happy of him now.
yeah, you ruined it. You ruined it for it. We need to commend Judith Varga and Andrea Flesch that did costumes, because this film looks a lot more expensive and stylized and aesthetically, composed. And I think it helped a lot. Like, all of those spaces we shot to death in Budapest, both him and I. Everything shoots in Budapest nowadays. And I got to go back to many of the places we were at. And just, it's wonderful how these people made the film look like that.
The production value was incredible, and also that mental institute, I don't know if you said that already, but served as like 12 different locations in the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
12 different sets.
We shot we shot a lot of things there. It was his parish. It was the Rome hotel room. It was 2 of the hospitals. It was the 1942 bunker.
Hotel room, really?
Yeah, we built that in one of the 1942 bunker, the Saligia monastery hallway, the big office, the exterior. You name it, the exterior. Yeah, your hotel room was there. What was that?
The Pope.
Yeah, the Pope's waiting room and the Pope's chapel. That's the
good way to
Pope's
put
chapel. By the way, that's a real life replica of the Pope's chapel.
Like, wow.
That's 1-to-1. Like, and it was surprisingly small. Like, that was but Chuti got the actual design, the measurements. So they built it 1-to-1, and it's tiny. Like, it was very small, and that's his actual chapel.
All I can think about is the nuns now and their relationship. But it kind of begs the question about the sexuality in the film and crossing lines. How much do you want to do? Like, as far as, you obviously are trying to push the boundaries. What was it like being able to kind of go further than most films may have wanted to? I mean, you guys go full out with a lot of different sequences in this film. Mm-hmm. As a director, did you have fun kind of pushing these guys to the extent of...
They didn't really have to be pushed. They walked by themselves. Listen, it's not about pushing boundaries insofar as people get a lot of, visual enticing things. But if the story doesn't make sense, if the plot doesn't call for it, there's no point showing anything. The bottom line is the devil's virtue is in her loins. It's the original sin. And if we don't go there, then what's the point of getting on the journey in the first place? So we had to do it. It wasn't even a question. And of course, it's a movie, so you still have to elevate things, and you have to write an arc, which we had a discussion about when we were... I can't do it without giving things away, so I won't. But things elevate. Like, the movie opens and we do a lot of things already in the first act, but then we have to raise the stakes and raise the stakes and raise the stakes because it is a film. But I do believe that that's essentially what happens in life, is that you embark on this journey, and sometimes you have no idea where you're going or what's happening to you or why it's happening to you. And then in the end, you're hoping that it will make sense. And that's what most religions sell, this hope that it might make sense, it might pay off. And it's true for pushing boundaries, it's true for what you believe in or don't believe in. So that's the way I see it.
It didn't feel to me like the sex was there for shock value or even entertainment. I just feel like it worked for the character of Father Smith, because as a priest, his desires and sexuality have been repressed for so long that it's sort of just it implodes at one point, and it just felt also like the I don't know why I'm bringing the masturbation sequence, but I was going to forget about it. No, but I thought it was I thought it was crucial to telling the story of that character and to show where he was at and his despair and it was a great starting point for what happens afterwards and his journey.
Can y'all talk about the reactions, like our experience with Catholic churches and priests doing things that aren't priestly compared to what you guys were trying to showcase? I think American audiences will look at this film very different than a European audience. Was that ever something you were looking into when you were, getting everything ready and with the script? I mean, I think an American audience will look at this completely different than the sensibilities of a European audience.
Right. The one thing I always wanted to steer clear of is something that the Catholic Church as an institution is extremely guilty of. And I'm only going to say this word once and then I'm going to move on. It's the pedophilia, because it's something that I condemn in a way that, it doesn't happen in the film.
Yeah.
And there is a reason for that. I condemn it more than I could make a socially acceptable commentary on. Okay? So that was that. In this film, however, what I wanted to do is to point out the fact that the institution and its rules is lagging so far behind where the earth has gotten that they will never catch up in 1,000 years, even with a guy like Pope Francis at its head, because they condemn and outlaw things that is just unreasonable to live with. And yet they set out these rules that you're supposed to abide by, which make no sense, not even to their own representatives. And most of the conflicts and hardships and millions of deaths in history that can be attributed to all sorts of different acts of the Catholic Church through the millennia have hardly ever been, they may have apologized at times, but any retributions? No. Is the Holy See still there in its tax-exempt owned state as the Vatican? Yes. Can a priest still get away with practically anything? Yes. And all this movie is doing from a European standpoint. Yes, look, in Europe, yes, you can get away with sex and smoking on the screen. In America, it's a little bit different. I know that. And so the producers are very keen on not getting an NC-17 rating on this film when it comes out, which it might. No, it's rated R? Yeah. All right, let's hope.
I'll give approval. He knows, he's done a lot.
But yeah, I feel that it's pushing different boundaries in Europe than it is here. We had the opening of the film was at the Edinburgh Film Festival in June, and we had a very different reaction there. Here we've been mostly talking about religion and the Catholic Church. Everybody's asking that here. In Edinburgh, it was more
about the anarchy.
The anarchy. It was about the anarchy and quote unquote, and only in a good way, the geeky part of the film. And here, from day one, all I've been talking about, I feel like, is the Catholic Church and religion, which it's very interesting to me. But I do feel that this movie has more than one layer to it and more than one subtext. But I also feel like here it's being viewed as a religious thriller more than the philosophy or metaphysical thriller, as we call it.
It's, I think, what we were mostly trying to say whilst making it was, advocating free will and doing good for the sake of doing good rather than awaiting a payoff, and just condemning hypocrisy on all levels. More than anything, it wasn't like, we want to preach this.
It wasn't about taking down the Catholic Church, or that wasn't the idea of the film. Although, that could.
You want to speak? Mm-hmm. So condemning hypocrisy more than anything else, and having people realize that they're responsible. We say it so many times. That's the point of the film. You are responsible for your own actions. That interface that you get, be it church, be it an institution that you represent, that interface will not save you. It will not give you, justification for anything you do. You can hide behind it only so many times.
And there's the reason for picking the Catholic Church as the backdrop, twofold. One, G.K. Chesterton's life is very much mirrored in that, as he was, he became a devout Catholic. He was a convert, but up till that point, his life was. When he wrote this book, it was sort of a reflection over the past 3 years of his life at the time, which was a opium-induced trip down the rabbit hole for himself. So that was one reason that I had picked the Catholic Church as a backdrop, and the other one is that it had to be a religion. I knew that because we are playing the book of Job, basically, which is what the original book is as well. And of all the 4,000 plus religions, this one is it's well branded. People know it.
Well, I guess to kind of, since you said the Austin audience is leaned on that religious side, can y'all talk about being able to bring it to a town that very much has, the capital is just right there, and yet it's probably the furthest thing people think of when they think of Weird Austin. There's that separation of the capital side compared to what people think of as a very hip, liberal community. It has that weird, whereas Scotland, I think, it's got that history to it. This is a very unique town. What's it like being able to bring it to Austin for a different feel?
It's great. I do love the festival, and I'm extremely grateful for being able to experience it with a very different perspective than how it was made. I've been told, actually, by István Szabó when he first watched the film. He said, "This is an American film with a European soul," and that kind of stuck with me. It sounded nice. I didn't know what it meant exactly until we started this whole going to festivals situation, and I realized, yes, it's made to look like that and kind of have that. But like you said, the Europeans are here. It's and yes, it's actually somebody said it's the most European film he has seen in a long time in a lot of ways, but yes, I think my background at UCLA kind of shows. I guess partly in the storytelling, but then the sense and sensibility is all from Europe. Reflect on Austin.
I think it's quite fitting to premiere in Austin on so many levels. To be in the South, in the hip capital of the South. It's like it adds to our subversion on so many levels. So I'm very happy that we got to do our American premiere here. Thank you.
I think it's interesting to see the reaction from any kind of audience. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but when I partake in a film, I don't necessarily think of the audience at the moment that I'm working on it. You sort of you try to stay true to the core of what you have to say, and then if someone and you hope that someone will listen and see, at the end of the process, and
I agree.
They'll understand.
I mean, until you make the film, it's yours. But once a movie is done, it's the audience's film.
You put it out there, you give it. It's you get it out of yourself, but it's not. This isn't like a big, studio movie where we don't do like we didn't do. I mean, did you test it with an audience? Yeah, you did, right? But right, but it's not, but.
It's a good question.
I can tell you an interesting story about that.
Okay.
No, finish your answer.
No, I just mean to say that it's not a calculated move for a specific audience.
Yeah.
We're telling the story the way we think it should be told.
Despite the audience.
Despite the audience.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the only thing we did learn from the testing process, and we did test the movie in a few places, The only thing we did learn, which we had to change then, was that a vast majority of the audience had no idea who Mussolini was. And that was wrong on my end, wrong assumption. I thought that people would know who Benito Mussolini Il Duce is. An overwhelming majority had no idea. So we kind of had to reshoot one scene and change the dialogue in that, and then we had to shoot another whole new scene and add that to be able to establish the historical backdrop. Because if you don't know that this guy was a fascist dictator who basically gave the Holy See its autonomy, then you know we're gonna have a hard time getting you into the story. So we basically had to do a brief history lesson, and that was my fault. I assumed that people would know, and then I had to realize that even now, as we sit here and speak, you know, fascism is on the rise everywhere. Especially, you know, in my home country, in Hungary, it's clearly a fascist dictatorship right now. Not even on the way, but it is already there. So people, in fact, do not know their history, and yes, they are bound to repeat it.
Well, I guess the kind of final question then would be, where do you guys hope to go from here with the film? And then also for each individually, what can we expect next, or what are you guys also working on outside of this project as well?
Well, the looking at the producers now, the film has been picked up by a sales company who will now take it to AFM and all the markets to come, and they have a really solid plan in place on how to sell it and get it released and marketed all over the place. We are receiving more festival invites, so you know, hopefully it will have its good life, and people will see it, and it will generate discussions that last longer than the coffee that they have after the movie. That's insofar as the film is concerned. Me personally, I have written 2 more things that I would like to follow this up with. Those are features, but I'm working actively on a miniseries that is a true story of a Mossad KGB double agent in the hottest era of the Cold War, who basically was a middleman, and he was the kind of guy that before history was made, this is the guy that made it. That's what I'm doing, and you don't let people answer. Like
She said it's a musical.
But it's a musical.
So it's a Mossad agent that the musical. Oh, okay. So,
Or do something.
you speak.
What am I working on? I just finished working on 2 movies. One is an independent feature directed by a guy called Brian Crano with Rebecca Hall and Dan Stevens, and I shot a movie directed by James Franco this past month, and now I'm doing a TV show for NBC we shot the pilot in March. It got picked up. It's a supernatural thriller. It's based on a series of books by the author of True Blood, the True Blood books. It's called Midnight Texas, and it'll be on NBC in February.
Wow. Gimme. Now I've stopped laughing. So speaking of NBC and our apparently common karma, I have Emerald City, the new NBC series coming up on the 6th of January. Two-hour special. Very proud of that. It's the Wizard of Oz basically, and I get to play the Wicked Witch of the West. So, being a character, are you a good witch or a sandwich? So, being a character actor forever. At the same time, I'll have, and I really hope to travel with those films as well. I have an indie called The Marker, an English one, where I play a ghost. What is it with me? And then Inferno is gonna come to the States pretty soon, and I'm very proud to chase Tom Hanks around and try and kill him. What is it with me?
Well, guys, thank you so much.